VPERMTEST is a new procedure in Genstat 22 for assessing the importance of the fixed terms in a linear mixed model using permutation tests. The conventional way to assess fixed terms is to use either walled or F-tests. However, the walled test generates significant results too frequently, leading to misleading conclusions. And whilst the F-test is more reliable, the denominator degrees of freedom needs to be estimated, and this is not always possible. Our new procedure, VPERMTEST, provides an alternative method for assessing fixed terms. Let's take a look at the help documentation for VPERMTEST. VPERMTEST performs random permutation tests on fixed terms in a REML analysis. The test probability is calculated as the proportion of walled statistics from the permuted samples that are larger than the observed walled statistic. As a result, this should not suffer from the bias that is found in the probabilities for the walled statistics, which tend to be too low. VPERMTEST is controlled by a number of options and parameters. The print option controls what output is generated. The random permutations are controlled by the n times, n retries, block structure, exclude, and seed options. The W method option controls the type of walled statistics to use, either those from sequentially adding fixed terms to the model, the default, or those from dropping fixed terms from the full model. The save parameter can be used to specify the REML analysis to perform the permutation tests on. If you do not set this, the tests are done on the most recent REML analysis that you have performed. The walled statistics from the permuted data, the test probabilities, the critical values, and the number of permutations whose REML analysis failed to converge can be saved using the walled, PR walled, critical walled, and n not converged parameters respectively. The other options and parameters can be used to define your own test statistic to assess via a permutation test and to save the output from this. There is an example of this at the end of the help where contrasts have been defined and then tested using VPERMTEST. We'll demonstrate VPERMTEST using an example. In addition to the constant, our linear mixed model contains a fixed term for cultivar. Unfortunately, the algorithm has been unable to estimate the denominator degrees of freedom, and thus an F-test for cultivar effect cannot be performed. And although a walled test has been supplied, we know the p-value associated with this test is likely to be too small, so instead we'll use VPERMTEST to assess the significance of cultivar. First, we need to open a text window in which to enter the commands. Let's bring up the help for VPERMTEST to remind ourselves of the options and parameters. For VPERMTEST, there aren't actually any options or parameters that we need to set. We can just run the command VPERMTEST as is, and the default settings will be used. However, there may be options and parameters that you want to or should set. For example, by default, 99 random permutations are performed. Let's increase this to 999. For a designed experiment, for example, a randomized block design, you may also want to ensure the blocking structure is respected when randomly permuting the data. You can do this by setting the block structure option. Let's run the permutation test. In the output, we see that the p-value from the permutation test for cultivar is small, indicating that this fixed effect is important. However, as to be expected, the p-value from the permutation test is slightly larger than that of the walled test. Genstat 22 offers many more new and exciting enhancements and features. To find out more, check out the What's New page on the knowledge base.